Hello and welcome to Welcome Strangers Post Film Conversation. This is a conversation, um, is a special program of Sif Streams and Anna Phil Wolf Book Awards as part of the 2021 Cleveland Book Week presented by the Cleveland Foundation. My name is Eric Seiler, and I'm a professor of film, media arts, and communications, as well as moderator for this conversation. We are very pleased to be joined by two important guests from the film. First is the director, Dia Soko Savage. She's the director and producer of Welcome Strangers. Little did you know, probably, she is also the creative and executive producer of MTV's hit series 16 and Pregnant and Teen Mom, one of the longest running documentary series on television. She began her career working with director Errol Morris on The Frog of the War and Mr. Death. She went on to produce numerous projects in her career. Now she runs 11th Street Productions with her producing partner, Morgan J. Freeman. Hello, Dia, and welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here. It's very interesting to hear someone read your bio. Well, it's weird, but very happy to be sharing the film with you today.
Well, we're glad to have you here. Next, we have someone that you probably recognize. It is Sarah Jackson. And some years ago, she went on a trip to the US Mexico border on a humanitarian aid organization working on immigration issues. She spoke with people who had been deported and learned about the people's reasons for migrating and heard about the dangers that they face. She also saw firsthand families being separated. Then she returned to Colorado and couldn't return to her normal life after the experience. So from then on, she went on to open Casa de Paz, and the rest is history. Hello, Sarah, and welcome.
Thanks for having us.
It's good to have the both of you here. What a really exciting and thrilling documentary. You packed so much into such little time. Can you tell me, how did this come about, Sarah? Did you approach Dia? Dia, did you approach Sarah? How did this documentary come about?
I approached Sarah. This was the summer of 2019. Is that right, Sarah? So it was right after the Trump administration zero tolerance policy had been put into effect. And I was feeling very hopeless and helpless and wanting to do something. And I actually spoke to my mom, who had gone to a training at Casa de Paz. And she came, we were talking that night, and she said, I just came from the coolest thing. Let me tell you what this woman and this group of volunteers is doing on a nightly basis. And I just had never heard of that. I hadn't thought about it. I'd been very focused on, some of the things that were happening at the border. And I was interested, I really wanted to hear more, and I really wanted to learn more. And I think I wrote to Sarah the next day and sort of said, I'm a filmmaker and a television producer, and I'm interested in what you do. Could I come meet you? And that was the beginning. And, it felt like a film to me, just even before I set foot in Casa de Paz. But once I was there at the actual house, it really just opened my eyes, and I could kind of see it. I don't know, Sarah, what your experience was like.
I remember getting the email from you, Dia, and I originally my very, very first thought was, this is spam. Like, no director with this kind of reputation would be interested in telling the story of Casa de Paz. Like, this is crazy. So at first I thought it was spam, and then I was like, wait a minute, I mean, what if it's not? And then I just got super excited, and I told my mom right away, and she freaked out, and we were all excited, and it just kind of felt really surreal, and it still kind of does.
Yeah, and it took a couple months to put together, but I mean, I think I came there, we had this email exchange, and Sarah invited me to come visit. And, I spent an evening there. I met Sarah and I met Oliver, and there were, 3 guests. Oh, no, actually, there weren't any guests that night. We just sort of hung out in the casa, and I sort of saw the daytime activities of, there were some people in and out, and I was kind of hooked. I just wanted to get back there, which I think a lot of people feel. I think a lot of volunteers set foot there and immediately say, like, what can I do next? How can I hang around here and be part of this? So that's sort of how it started. For me, my hanging around usually involves, filming while hanging. So it just felt like a natural fit.
I see. Did you give your mom credit in the film for coming up with the idea?
Oh, shoot. I don't know if I
I don't want to
definitely
get you in
thanked
trouble.
her. She helped enormously because my husband produced the film. So my mom did childcare for us. My
Mhm.
stepmom was helped interpret as people were getting released because she's a native Spanish speaker. But Sarah, I always feel like Sarah and I, first thing we did after we met was talk to our moms. So yeah, there'd be no film without our moms.
Abs-
As I'm sure many filmmakers should say, even if they don't all
There
acknowledge
would
it.
be no life without our moms.
Exactly, our mom.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, over to you, Sarah. How's Casa de Paz doing now? I know the documentary was completed earlier this year or late last year.
Came out last year,
Yes.
right before we had our film premiere, right before kind of everything got locked down for
Right.
COVID. And it's been, it's actually been pretty amazing. One of the nice things about having this long period where people were inside is we were able to reach a lot of people and bring it directly to them into their homes. So we've had, we've played at a lot of different festivals and we've done a lot of different kinds of screening and outreach. But I'm sorry, I cut you off to your question about, which I'm much more interested in, which is where Costa Paz is right now.
Well, very, very exciting things have happened since the film was released. And one of the things is that we own our own home now. We actually moved locations. We've been saving up money. And actually, thanks to the film and some very generous donors who have given to us, we have saved up enough money over the course of 9 years to buy our own home with cash. It's fully paid for. And so we've moved into a location which is right across the street from the detention center. So as soon as someone is released, we have a team there ready to greet them. And there's no longer people sort of wandering around like you see in the film because we are so close. We have a volunteer team that can be there within minutes. 7 minutes, actually. We timed it. It's a 7-minute walk. So that's really exciting. And then another sort of noteworthy tidbit to mention is we've been experiencing a lot of mass releases. And so this is when more than 10 or 15 people are released all at once. So I think in the film, one of our busiest nights might have been like 3 or 4 people that were released all at once. And the past couple of months, we've been averaging 20 guests per day. Including a few weeks ago, we hit a record high of 70 immigrants released in one evening. And we're still here doing what we were doing 3 years ago when we shot the film. We're providing the post-release accompaniment for all our new friends released from ICE.
Well, 70 immigrants released. Do you have accommodations for all of them, or are there other places similar to yours where they can go?
We're the only nonprofit in Colorado offering this type of post-release support for immigrants released from ICE. So we are making it happen with whatever it is that we can find. We've called upon our volunteer community to open up their houses and host 1 or 2 guests per night. A lot of our guests have been able to find same-day flights, so we are able to just take them straight to the airport. We've rented out a meeting space at a local nonprofit that resettles refugees. So actually at the airport, I just got confirmation a few days ago, we have access to a meeting room there so that we can take folks directly released from ICE to the airport and help them get tickets. So every day looks a little bit different. So never a dull moment.
I bet. Well, that's good that you found some partnerships and who are able to help you, carry out your mission. Um, Going back to you, Dia, I know you met Sarah, and as a result of meeting Sarah, you met other people as well too, especially Oliver. Do you keep in touch with Oliver? Sarah, do you keep in touch with Oliver in the U? If so, how is he doing?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Dia. You go
Oh,
first.
you go. I'll follow up.
Uh,
We both want to talk about Oliver.
Yeah, Oliver, I'm very happy to report. Well, actually, we didn't cover this in the film, but a week after the film was released, unfortunately, Oliver was diagnosed with lymphoma. And for the past couple of years, he's been fighting it and doing chemo, and I'm very happy to say he's cancer-free. And he actually has a job now working to resettle asylum seekers and refugees. Mirabel gave birth to their daughter a few months after we shot the film.
Exactly 9 months, I
like
believe.
basically 9 months.
They named her Sarah, which I think is so sweet.
Oh,
Baby Sarah.
Best person ever.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm very happy to say that the family is doing well and thriving.
And to answer your question, we absolutely stay in touch with Oliver. My husband, I think, went and saw him yesterday and got to hang out with him and catch up a little bit. But you know, it's definitely like it's very cool that he has this new job that's kind of continuing the work of helping people, but in a slightly different capacity.
Okay. Getting into the film a little bit, Dia, staying on track with Oliver, there was this poignant moment in the film in which we saw Oliver being, reunited with his wife and daughter, and there was footage of Sarah and Oliver's wife embracing each other. You chose to put that in there. I don't know if you have footage of Oliver and his wife reuniting. Can you talk a little bit about that? Why you did that scene that way?
Sure. I mean, I love that moment so much. And I think it's the power of that moment is kind of, the climax of the film, and that you realize that, all of the work, like all of this vision of Sarah's is about helping people who you don't know. It really is. And, you feel like his wife is such a central character in, for him and his life and during the many years that he was here without her. And I don't know, just something about that felt like it would have that it has a power, that maybe it was less about Oliver seeing his wife. Also, to be completely frank, although we almost did go follow that union when it took place. His wife was out of state, not in Colorado, and we made some arrangements for things. It was a bit of a trickier situation. There's just certain restrictions with filming. But yeah, what we really wanted was to see Mirabel, his wife, welcomed into the community that he and the world that he was sort of occupying. So it was a bit of it's what we had, but also I just loved it because it sort of brought some of the beauty of what they do. It hit me hard, and I was hoping that it would connect with audiences.
Oh, I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. And Sarah, when you first saw the film, or hopefully you got to see a rough cut or a screener, what was your reaction, and what is your reaction now to this film? Other than that, you like seeing yourself in the documentary.
That was.
I don't think that's what she's.
That's where my mind was going, because I remember, like, I don't really do my hair or makeup, but now I look back watching it, I'm like, maybe I should have at least brushed my hair if I was going to be on the big screen. So yeah, I mean, just the shock of like seeing yourself on a big screen was interesting, but more than anything, I think the feeling that I had after the first time that I watched the film was like how amazing and special it is to have this film to put into history what our community is all about and what we're able to do here in Denver, Colorado, and to know that that's going to live on forever is, I mean, I literally have chills right now. It still feels like, did it really happen? I'm still asking myself that, and it's years later. So clearly I know it happened, but did it?
Well, I would love to add, it's always hard as a filmmaker to show your subjects your film. We mentioned Sarah's mom earlier. She actually came to our initial, just private screening that we did for Sarah of the movie. And it was on a really big screen, which I realize could be very daunting for those of us who, don't sign up to be movie stars. But it was an amazing screening for me because, first of all, Sarah Jackson here, who has spent the last, 8 years thinking about what she can do for people to ease this transition. You watched the film, Sarah, and the first thing you said to me was, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize how scary it is for people and how disorienting. And your brain just immediately went to like, what else could I do so that it's not as confusing, because of that moment where Javier is in the car and the volunteer has to go back up to the ICE facility to to the prison to see if there's anyone else in the waiting room. And again, part of that's because of they let people out the back, so we have to go back around, or the volunteers have to go back around to the front to make sure no one's been waiting. But yeah, it was just amazing for me to see you, who was such a visionary, immediately take that, feel it, and then start thinking, oh, what can I do to make this even easier for people? So I loved that level of compassion. And then your mom was so sweet, and she had said, I think your mom said, I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh all the time and feel so differently than I do about immigrants. And I just can't imagine somebody watching this film and not having their minds opened a little bit by it, which was like music to my filmmaker ears, of course.
Yeah, our family, I grew up in a very conservative Christian home where we not only listened to Rush Limbaugh, if the children, if we spoke while he was on air, we would get like a 10-minute timeout for interrupting Rush. Thankfully, I'm very happy to say my family does not, well, I mean, obviously he's passed away, but we do not listen to him anymore. And my whole family has gone on a journey of unlearning our the way that we were taught as little children, and relearning ways to be better people in this world. That does not include Rush Limbaugh and listening to him. We crossed that off the list.
Yeah, so Sarah, I just liked how you have embraced things. You embrace um, your experience down in Mexico, and by starting this and this documentary, when you saw yourself, you embraced it. You realize, hey, this is actually, can do something for people as well too. So that's great how you're continuing to evolve. Do you know what's going to evolve for you next? Are you looking to open up more on Casa de Paz, or expanding it in some kind of way?
No. The simple answer is no. We are here to help coach and guide other communities that want to open up a hospitality home network like this. But that's not necessarily the goal, to put more of these into into other states. I think that other states have amazing communities already of activists and movers and shakers. And so we have been able to assist folks in thinking through logistically and strategically how to create a community that will offer support for people being released from ICE. But I think one of the biggest things is that community takes ownership for that idea. And so while we are here to guide and to coach and mentor folks, we really want people to be able to take that and make it their own. But on the horizon, the immediate next horizon, the next 6 to 12 months, we are actually excited to start looking for a co-executive director to join me. I'm specifically hoping to find someone who is a Latina, who has been directly impacted by ICE, whether they have personally been detained or a family member has been detained, who can help continue to make Casa de Paz as good as it can be.
That's wonderful. I wish you all the best with that. Over to you, Dia. As a filmmaker, you always learn something from your projects that you've done. And this is probably a little personal. Can you talk about what this project has done for you, maybe personally and professionally as well?
Ooh, that's a great question. I mean, for one, I've gotten a lot out of this. It's really been such a pleasure to work on this film and to get it out there. And, some of it is just a lot of time. I mean, I really try to bring sort of a journalistic standard to all the things that I do. And, I do that on the television series that I mentioned. It's like I really see my job as sort of documenting and telling people's stories. And I think the nature of this project and just the meeting Sarah, meeting Oliver, some of those like journalistic boundaries, I really sort of let them dissipate because you kind of can't help but get sucked into wanting to be part of what's happening at Casa de Paz. So that's been a very new and interesting professional experience for me, because I kind of didn't want to just be someone behind the camera, you know, letting this unfold. I mean, that was important, and we did that while we filmed, and I have a, you know, style that I like to use and ways that I like to connect with people and make them feel comfortable. But ultimately, I really felt compelled for this project to put my camera aside and just like, what can I do? Pick up a, you know, bucket and wash the floor? Awesome. That's what I want to do in this house. So that's really been, you know, that was just an amazing thing to be part of. And I would love to, you know, make other films like that, but that isn't always the case. A lot of times it's much more observational. And I don't know, I got sucked into the agenda in some ways, and it turned me into an activist where I really hadn't been one. I was not, you know, this was not something I've spent my life thinking about or wanted to be part of. It was the first part of your question, and now I've forgotten the second.
What has it done for you personally and professionally? And yeah, I guess you kind of alluded.
Yeah, I guess that maybe I did answer the question as
right.
Sort of, you know, a mix of those.
Yeah. Exactly, and it's just it's interesting. You never knew when your mom told you about this project that this would be a part of your life, and it seems like, you know, this will always be a part of your life. Maybe not this particular project, but maybe other projects as well too.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I always, and also the world is so rich, you know, it's always hard. We made this as a short film rather than a feature, even though I think there's, you know, certainly feature length, you know, drama and information and challenges to tackle. And part of the reason we made it a short was because we wanted it to be accessible to a lot of different people who maybe wouldn't necessarily say, oh, I'll sign up for watching an 1.5-hour movie. But just being part of this world, like there's so many different stories that I'd love to talk about. And, you know, it's not even in the film, but Sarah runs a volleyball league called Volleyball Internacional. And that's part of what pays, you know, had been going to support the Casa. And I just sort of feel like, oh my gosh, is there a sports documentary in here to be made that's also about immigration and the experience of, you know, people who come from different countries living in the US. So even last night I was like talking after my husband went and talked to Oliver, and Oliver was talking about being part of a Cameroonian soccer game that's going to happen annually. I was like, wait, is that my next film?
Yeah, the ideas are always flowing. They are. Sarah, I'm going to ask you to get that on your website in a moment, but I noticed on your website there's a photo of you. You're wearing this T-shirt and it says "Las cosas pequeñas con gran," which I think translates into "Do small things with great love." Can you talk about why you wore that shirt and what that saying means to you?
Yeah, I think sometimes we forget that the little things in life can be really powerful and impactful, and we can remember them forever. Something so small, like maybe giving a ride to someone who got released from ICE and needs a ride to the airport. In fact, one of our volunteers, Greg, he told me that one day he was just driving a guy to the Sikh temple who had been released from detention and needed to get over to the Sikh temple. And the guy who was just released from ICE looked over to Greg and said, I will remember this every day for the rest of my life. And I believe it. And so I think sometimes we forget that these seemingly small acts of love are so important to remind us that we belong to each other, right? Like, I've never met you, Eric, except for right now, obviously, but when I have a sense of belonging to you, that you belong to me and I belong to you, that we can start to take care of each other in a better way than has been done in the past, and making this world a better place for all of us to live in one day at a time, whether that's a ride to the airport or a bagged sack dinner with my sister Anna and her daughter Gabby, she's 4 years old. They signed up to make 10 sack dinners for our friends released from ICE. So they got peanut butter and jelly, and we're making them together and doing it as a family. And all of these small acts of love add up, and that's the kind of world that I want to live in.
That's a world we all should want to live in. Well said. Well said. In our few minutes that we have remaining here, Dia, you chose to close the documentary with Sarah talking about this dream that she had, about a year or so before you shot that. And can you talk about why you chose to end it that way and what the message was behind her recounting that dream?
Sure. That was the idea. That idea came from our editor, Chelsea Jackson, who's amazing and brilliant, and I want to work with on everything. No relationship to Sarah Jackson. And just as we were going through the footage, and she actually really pitched it to me as like, I think the movie ends with Sarah's dream. And I think it was just this idea of her, just her vision alive, her vision made real. Like, she had told the story of this dream and interview, but you realize like she has made this dream come true. We have not fixed all the problems of immigration. She's not solved the hardships that are ahead for the people that are passing through the CASA or that are behind them, when they have had to flee their home countries. But like, she has just created this beautiful, beautiful thing. And so it just, I just think it appealed poetically, to just take a minute to sort of, my whole goal had always been to like elevate what's happening in the CASA, not to make it feel just like, oh, it's just like a suburban house that some people stay in for a night or two. Because instead it's not. It's it's a bit of magic in all of it. So I just thought that was an opportunity to highlight that aspect.
Yeah, it was a wonderful way to end it. But how did you have a plan on how you were going to end it before your editor approached you with that?
Well, I mean, they sort of say with filmmaking that you like write the film before you start filming, and then you write it again while you're filming, and then you write it again in the edit room. And that was certainly true. Even, while we were shooting, I was mixing things up and thinking, oh, I'm going to show this person being released first. And, I had to play a little with the timeline. But I really, I have to say, I wish I was the kind of person who could tell you, I see it all, I know exactly how it's going to play out. But for me, filmmaking's so collaborative that it was really about talking to the producer and the editor and seeing what we had and playing with different ways. So, I wasn't sure. I didn't know if that moment, in some ways for me, the movie ends separate from the dream, but it's just about that powerful moment between Sarah and Oliver's wife. But I wasn't really sure it would work. So unfortunately, the answer is kind of no. I think I just have to get in the edit room and play with stuff and see what works.
And do you feel that it worked?
I do. Yeah, I felt great about it. I mean, I thought while we were filming, I thought we were going to end with Javier calling his wife and crying and feeling so emotional. But that was like, we were filming and we had no idea whether or not Oliver's wife was going to be released, tomorrow or in 6 weeks, which is what happened, or in 6 months, or who knows, not at all. So it was, you just never know, kind of, you try to cover all your bases while you're filming so that if something happens, you can use it.
Absolutely. Since this conversation is part of the Anisfield Wolf Book Awards, I must ask you both about books. Are there certain books that you may have read in your life that may have inspired you to help you with what you're doing now? I know, Sarah, there's a book that you have. It's called The House That Love Built. So can you mention another book besides that book?
Dang it. I thought that was the one book I could say that I read. One of the books that I read before I even had an idea to start Casa de Paz, before I went down to that trip on the Mexico-US border, it was just a book that I happened to pick up, and it's called Little Bee by Chris Cleaver. And the book is telling the story of one African immigrant who was locked in a detention center in England, and her story of being released and finding her way to someone that she knew in England. And the story is just very captivating and very it for me, before I had ever even met anyone who had been directly impacted by ICE, it was a book that gave me a little bit of insight into the experiences of somebody in a detention center, being released from a detention center, trying to find their way to their final destination. And the book, I won't say much more about it other than please go read it if you have an opportunity. But one of the quotes from that book that I think about probably a couple times a week, the woman who's the main subject of the book, she talks about scars on our body, and she says, maybe when you first see a scar, it doesn't look so beautiful, but a scar means that we survived. And so I think we can all see them as beautiful marks on our bodies, because it means that whatever was trying to take us away from this beautiful earth didn't get that opportunity, and we're still here, and we can still enjoy this precious life that we've been given. So I love that sort of picture in my mind of seeing scars as a mark of survival. And when you get to know her story a little bit more, you'll see why that's so important.
Okay, that's well noted. And yes, and it's good that people like you are helping people with those scars. And reminds me of a book I read over the summer, American Dirt. Are you familiar with that book? And I was just thinking when I saw this documentary how you're helping people that have, escaped some of the dangerous situations, and you're giving them a place of refuge and hopefully propelling to a good life. Over to you, Dia. Is there a book that you would like to mention?
I really I love books. I actually like dystopian science fiction books, none of which are relevant to your question, but I loved the book Mountains Beyond Mountains by Tracy Kidder, which is not, directly related to anything in this film, but, it's about the Dr. Paul Farmer and sort of how he goes back and forth between Haiti and the extreme poverty that he sees, how Partners in Health was founded, and there's just amazing examples of sort of being in these rural areas where people are dying of diseases that we've had cures for 60 years, and then flying to fancy dinners with donors and 4 hours later in Boston. And that book had such power over me. And still, when I think about it, just the idea of like, we're all existing on Earth and our experiences can be, I'm in this lovely home and house with beautiful, finishes
Plants
on the walls. And yes, I have a lovely plant somewhere. I'm disoriented, but, and that I can drive to Casa de Paz tonight to help somebody who's been living in, a home with a dirt floor and no, running water, and just that like it's all connected. And I think that the takeaway of that book, I just try to keep that in my heart and try to remember that we can work to unite those experiences, and what we do every day had a big impact.
Well, great. So, Dia, what's next for you? What can we look to see from you in the near future?
Well, I still have my day job as a television producer, so I continue to do that. I'm actually producing, not directing right now, but producing 3 feature films that are all nearing completion. One's a fiction film by a guy named Andrew Bujalski. I've made a lot of movies with him over the last 2 decades. And then 2 documentaries. One is directed by a woman named Lucia Small, and it's about 4 years of high school in a really competitive high school debate team. And it's sort of about girls' voices and confidence and how today's high school debaters are tomorrow's political leaders. And the other film is also actually based in Colorado and by director Julian Rubinstein. And it's about a anti-gang activist who shoots someone at his own peace rally. And it's really about diving into sort of the political machinations about the gang war. It's really interesting. So all of those films are finishing right now, which is making me a bit crazy, but I'm very excited to have them out in the world.
Well, we're glad that you can put information out there like that in the world, and we're glad that you took some time to speak with us today. Last but not least, but Sarah, I know you mentioned how you want Casa de Paz to continue growing. Can you give us the website and talk about how people can, I guess, support what you are doing,
Sure, yeah.
and also through the maybe the volleyball as well too. Mhm.
Yeah, we have a lot of opportunities both for folks who are local in the Denver area and for folks that are not local and maybe around the world. So our website is casadepazcolorado.org. CASADEPAZ Colorado.org. That means House of Peace, casadepazcolorado.org. And on our website, you can go to our volunteer page to see different volunteer opportunities. We have on-site opportunities if you're here in Denver, where you can go pick up people released from detention, make meals for folks, take people to the airport, come over and help clean, lots of different opportunities. If you are not in the Denver area, or even if you are in the Denver area, we also have a Pen Pal program that you can sign up to be part of, where you go through an online volunteer training. And at the end of the training, we will connect you to a detained immigrant, and you will be their pen pal and start a new friendship that way. So the Volleyball League is also another fun way to support the CASA and get some good exercise in, relieve some stress after a long day of work. And all the money is donated to the CASA after that. And it's all on our website.
Well, wonderful. We wish you all the best. I wish you, both of you all the best. And thank you so much for joining us today. Sarah Jackson, the subject in Welcome Strangers, and Dia Soko Savage, the director, producer of Welcome Strangers. Thank you both very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us. And Kelly, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly.
And thank you to our audience for joining us for this important conversation. For more information about Sis Dreams and Anisfield Wolf Book Awards program, please visit clevelandfilm.org or anisfield-wolf.org. I'm Eric Seiler. Thank you.